One major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special.
The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway, and that's when I started to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. And finally, I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse?
Rachel Zegler is not messing around. News just hit that the rising star of a painfully underperforming Snow White movie has taken her frustration to a shocking new level.
For the set that are apple flavored. And that hurts my feelings.
I was gonna say,
it's like they don't know what happens to me. There's gonna be so many stories that come from the set about how difficult I am to work with simply because I don't want apple.
She's allegedly threatening to sue South Park for daring to mock her. People are stunned. This bold move comes hot on the heels of the biggest box office disaster of the past week. If anyone thought the Snow White fiasco was over,
exactly what they're doing, and that is why we hate the diversity, equity, and inclusion casting and writing in movies.
Guess again. Ziegler is apparently charging back, fists clenched, vowing to bring her critics to their knees, and the entire entertainment world is in absolute disbelief. This rumor cuts like a lightning bolt through Hollywood.
Snow White is the first American feature-length animated movie, 1937. It's one of the most beloved movies of all time.
Everyone expected Rachel Zegler to be upset about the biting criticism swirling around her role as Snow White, but launching a potential lawsuit against one of the most iconic satire platforms on television? That's downright jaw-dropping. It's not every day that a star attempts to take on the comedic powerhouse that is South Park. Yet here we are. Some insiders whisper that Zegler is furious beyond measure.
Even if everything worked perfectly, it would have been almost impossible for this movie to succeed because you're comparing it to one of the most beloved films of all time and a truly groundbreaking movie.
Raging at the notion that her portrayal could be lampooned so casually. She wants justice, or perhaps vengeance, for what she sees as an unfair portrayal. But that isn't the whole story. This looming lawsuit is overshadowed by the real shocker that struck just last week. The Snow White adaptation imploded at the box office.
Rights are on the line, folks.
Bitch! The right to buy Cosby sweaters?
Come on.
That's the face of a serial killer.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
Fans had voiced their skepticism for months, complaining about everything from casting to rumored plot, changes. Critics predicted it might struggle to resonate with audiences, but no one expected it to fall flat on its face so dramatically. The word disaster doesn't even come close. Reports say ticket sales have been downright pitiful, with entire theaters running empty seats. The meltdown has left Disney reeling.
I don't particularly see people who, look like me or are me playing roles like that. So it was definitely when it got announced.
He wasn't a stalker, by the way.
Thing that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry.
Questioning how one of their most beloved fairy tales could turn so sour. The outrage from fans who felt the movie strayed too far from the essence of the classic was scathing. Social media roasted the movie, highlighting how Rachel Ziegler appeared dismissive of the original story's charm. From a marketing standpoint, it was an absolute meltdown, and what happened next would shock everyone.
She's my best friend, and she's the one who sent me the casting notice and said, "Thank me when you're famous." It's the craziest thing ever that it came true in that weird way, and that's why I bring her everywhere, and she's the best ever.
The board was making a decision to make a change at the CEO level at Disney, and that they might ask me to.
Leave it to South Park to stir the pot even further. In typical outrageous style, the show took aim at the Snow White fiasco, crafting a merciless parody that spared no feelings. The show's depiction apparently hit close to home. Zegler was reportedly appalled at how her personality, her interviews, and her rumored backstage dramas got bundled into one searing comedic takedown. South Park thrived on the tension, slicing through Hollywood's veneer in savage detail.
It was like that for a lot of us. It's easier for me than it was for Tom because I wasn't playing a character that had already existed in the previous films. And those performances are so wonderful that you don't want to try to recreate anything because there's the fear of failing miserably. But also it's 64 years before the original films take place, the original books. And Francis Lawrence, who directed Catching Fire and both Mockingjay films, and Nina, who produced all of the Hunger Games content, they didn't put any pressure on us to try to recreate anything.
Is where Rachel Ziegler supposedly draws the line. According to the swirling rumor, she feels humiliated and insulted by the episode's portrayal. Many watchers found it hilarious, but the actress, not so much. She wants retribution, and she's allegedly got her legal team primed to pounce. Though some might say it's a fool's errand to battle the kings of satire, Ziegler evidently believes her reputation has been sullied enough to warrant action.
The rice has to be body temperature, and if it takes too long to serve it, it's no longer body temperature. But what was interesting to me about him was he had 3 Michelin stars, and he was still trying to learn how to get better, how to be better.
Yes.
And I showed that to executives at Disney. And my advice to them was to not hear the noise as much, to continue doing the job that we've entrusted them to do.
Right.
Which is to tell the truth, to state the facts, to present the news in an accurate and a fair and in a timely.
But that wasn't the whole story. Insiders claim that Ziegler's fury ignited long before the South Park fiasco. Fan backlash regarding her interviews, where she openly criticized or joked about certain aspects of the original Snow White, already had people fuming. The film's failure at the box office only fanned the flames.
She's my best friend, and she's the one who sent me the casting notice and said, thank me when you're famous. It's the craziest thing ever that it came true in that weird way, and that's why I bring her everywhere, and she's the best ever. But yeah, I put myself on tape. It's the worst tape you've ever seen in your life. I have no idea how I got the part still. And it's being used to teach future casting directors at NYU.
What was it like seeing yourself for the first time in full Snow White drag?
I love that description. It's perfect. Oh my God, well, when you get to wear Sandy Powell, first of all, insane. And then you get to be lit by Mandy Walker.
Rumors suggest that with each passing negative headline, her frustration grew. She felt singled out, overshadowed by snarky talk show hosts, angry fans, and scornful social media posts. Now, the comedic jab on South Park seems to have been the spark that ignited a bigger explosion. Sources close to the situation claim Zegler believes comedic takedowns have gone from playful to personal.
One where he was in the boxing ring.
Boxing ring, and Howard Cosell, who was then a famous announcer for ABC Sports, introduced him. And I was asked at some point to get Mr. Sinatra Listerine. We're at Madison Square Garden. It's not like there's a Listerine store in Madison Square Garden. So I dutifully ran out, found a drugstore of some sort. This is before CVS. This is 45 years ago. Business with large Western companies and brands, but we bring to China a type of ideology, admittedly a relatively benign one as it relates to politics in China, but still a Western ideology. And in many ways, that had value.
She's angry that her name is being dragged through the mud at a time when the Snow White fiasco is fresh in everyone's mind. She fears that this portrayal will cement her as the scapegoat for the movie's failure. With the rumored lawsuit, she's essentially screaming, "Enough is enough." People are torn. Some call her brave for standing up to mockery. Others see this as a meltdown from an actress unable to handle criticism. The tension is real, and the stakes couldn't be higher. But the drama doesn't end there. The entire industry is abuzz with hot takes. Some big-name actors find themselves in a tough spot. They don't want to alienate Disney, still a juggernaut in the entertainment world, but they also don't want to hitch their wagon to a controversy. That feels like it's accelerating into chaos. A-listers who once supported Zegler are reportedly ghosting her calls, uncertain how to navigate the backlash. Even within Disney, there's said to be quiet discontent. Executives are caught between wanting to protect their film's lead and cringing at the embarrassment this fiasco has brought upon the studio. They have faced fan revolts over reimagined classics, but seldom has a lead actress fired back so vehemently at comedic critics. Some staff members resent the negative publicity, claiming it's a distraction from other potentially profitable releases. Meanwhile, Hollywood publicists are vigorously debating if Ziegler should simply let the drama fade. By allegedly threatening to sue South Park, she's pouring gasoline on the flame. But from her perspective, the damage to her name is done, and she's determined to fight. And what happened next would blow everyone's minds. Rachel Zegler soared to fame with her remarkable talent, capturing hearts when she first stepped into the spotlight. She was seen as a new generation's leading lady, championed by fans who loved her refreshing honesty. But rumors are swirling that her abrupt pivot into combative territory might unravel that goodwill. This entire fiasco has become a cautionary tale of how quickly an idolized star can fall from grace. All it takes is one disastrous movie outcome and an ill-timed comedic roast. Social media turned on her the moment she seemed to criticize the original Snow White. And now, with whispers of legal battles, some fans feel she's accelerating her own downfall. Her supporters argue that she's simply refusing to be a Hollywood punchline. Why should comedic bullies get away with tarnishing someone's reputation? They applaud her fierce stance against satirical cheap shots. Critics, on the other hand, demand that she grow a thicker skin. With a thin line between fair critique and defamation, Ziegler apparently believes South Park crossed it. Will this battle cement her as a fighter or doom her as an overreacting celebrity? Only time will tell. But hold on, there's more. South Park is legendary for skewering celebrities. Over the years, they've lampooned pop stars, politicians, and entire corporations. Most targets shrug it off, understanding that comedic exaggeration is part of the show's DNA. A few have dared to speak out, but rarely does it escalate into actual or threatened litigation. This situation mirrors past controversies. But with a distinct twist, the timing couldn't be worse. The Snow White meltdown is so recent that the pain is still raw. Zegler's reaction is fueled by a perfect storm of negative headlines, fan betrayal, and career anxiety. She's determined not to let her name be dragged further into the gutter. By a comedic cartoon. Some see this as a repeat of that time certain A-listers tried to muzzle comedic critics, only to end up fueling more jokes. South Park often thrives on any legal threat, turning it into comedic gold for the next round of episodes. The question is, will Rachel Zegler's rumored lawsuit be a short-lived outburst or an epic feud for the ages? But that still isn't the end of this thriller. Behind the scenes, tensions are flaring. Disney, reeling from the Snow White debacle, is not eager to drag more drama into the limelight. The project was already scorned for misguided marketing, questionable script changes, and controversies. About how it handled or dismissed beloved parts of the original story, Rachel Ziegler's rumored legal fight with a major TV institution only draws more ire. Disney lawyers reportedly dread a public confrontation with a show that's known for mocking everyone. Some suspect the studio might try to hush the actress, advising her to focus on more positive PR. But if she refuses to budge, lines might be drawn. Will Disney stand behind its star, or will it distance itself to salvage what's left of the brand? Executives are allegedly wringing their hands. Some claim that if Zegler's lawsuit goes forward, she could risk blacklisting herself from future major roles, especially with comedic or satirical elements. Others say this is the perfect moment for her to stand up and show she won't be bullied. In the cutthroat world of Hollywood, one bold move can cement your legend or end your career overnight. But wait until you hear what's been happening off camera. Fans are furious. Some longtime Disney loyalists are absolutely livid over how Snow White turned out. They blame Zegler for disrespecting the original, painting her as out of touch and dismissive of the classic's innocence. They say she invited the criticism, so she has no right to whine about satire. Yet there's another camp of fans who see everything differently. They believe Ziegler was brave for taking a classic fairy tale in a modern direction. They think she's being unfairly blamed for the movie's downfall, and the negative press has spun wildly out of control. They say she's a victim of ruthless Hollywood politics, targeted by comedic bullies when she's already down. Social media is a battleground, with defenders clashing against critics in heated comment sections. TikTokers create viral videos, mocking both sides, intensifying the drama. Meanwhile, the rumor of a lawsuit only fuels the bickering, polarizing the conversation further. And people thought it couldn't get more dramatic. Plenty are asking, how did Rachel Ziegler go from beloved newcomer to Hollywood's most controversial target? The speed of her rise and fall is staggering. The harsh reality is that fame is fickle, and being thrust into an iconic role like Snow White comes with crushing expectations. Once the project bombed, fans looked for a scapegoat, and Zegler's outspoken nature made her an easy target. The alleged lawsuit suggests that Zegler is done tolerating jokes at her expense. But is she playing right into the hands of those who say she's out of touch? By threatening a beloved comedic institution, she risks losing the sympathy of casual onlookers. Still, supporters maintain that no one should have to silently endure personal attacks. The industry is infamous for devouring its own when the going gets tough, and Zegler might be fighting to preserve her dignity before it's too late. But what if things get even worse? If this rumored legal action materializes, expect a high-stakes showdown. South Park's creators are well-versed in controversy and rarely back down. They've faced real-life tensions before, only to double down and deliver even more ruthless parodies. If Ziegler attempts to silence them, they may respond by amplifying the ridicule. Hollywood attorneys are no strangers to flamboyant suits. But the challenges are numerous. Ziegler would have to prove actual harm. She'd need to demonstrate that South Park's portrayal isn't just comedic parody, but outright slander or defamation. that's notoriously difficult to argue in court, especially with public figures. This potential clash has every Hollywood gossip mouth frothing at the prospect of a massive public battle. Could it overshadow the epic flop that was Snow White's opening week? Possibly. Some speculate that Ziegler might be using the lawsuit to shift attention away from the movie's tanking numbers. If that's true, it's a risky gamble. Still not the end of this wild story. Inside the House of Mouse, executive patience may be on the brink. With every new piece of negative publicity, the brand tarnishes further. A fresh wave of internal memos, if rumors are correct, show deep concern that the fiasco is spiraling out of control. Some insiders fear that continuing meltdown could harm upcoming releases. Ziegler's rumored defiance puts Disney in an awkward position. They can't simply muzzle a top talent without risking a public meltdown, but letting her run wild with potential lawsuits against satirical institutions looks reckless. Ultimately, Disney thrives on pristine, family-friendly illusions. A messy legal spat? That's the last thing they want. Still, it's unclear whether they're prepared to sever ties with Zegler if she pushes too hard. The actress was once touted as a rising star who could carry multiple future projects. Now, her name is entangled with the biggest fiasco of the year. Studio executives might be forced to choose between brand reputation and loyalty to their star, but the next development would send shockwaves across the industry. In the wake of these swirling rumors, other celebrities are forced to pick sides. Some quietly distance themselves from the raging controversy. They may issue bland statements or no statements at all, hoping the storm passes without dragging them in. Others, however, seem eager to show public support. Close friends of Zegler allegedly describe her as heartbroken and cornered, fueling sympathy in some corners of the internet. Meanwhile, comedic personalities are relishing the chaos, claiming that satire is a sacred form of free speech. They argue that if you can't handle a good roast, you shouldn't be in show business. This schism underscores how precarious Hollywood friendships can be. Publicly, everyone wants to maintain a polished image. Privately, there's frantic maneuvering. No one wants to be overshadowed by a scandal that might jeopardize their future projects, and the chaos only escalates from here. Rachel Zegler's alleged plan to sue South Park after enduring a brutal parody is the talk of Tinseltown. It's a brazen move, fueled by anger, frustration, and the overshadowing cloud of Snow White's recent box office meltdown. Whether she's making a bold stand or setting herself on a collision course with Hollywood's comedic juggernauts, one truth stands out. This story has forced everyone to question how far satire can go and how celebrities should respond when they feel cornered. Beyond all the finger-pointing and heated debates, we're left with a striking question. When does defending your reputation become more damaging than the initial insult? For Rachel Zegler, the battle is on, and the outcome could redefine the relationship between a star's right to fight back and satire's right to poke fun. And if there's one thing the last week has shown us, it's that nobody in Hollywood is safe from the unpredictable storm of public opinion. Snow White might have bombed, but the spectacle surrounding its star is far from over. You be the judge. Is this a righteous stand against a ruthless comedic onslaught, or a reckless act that risks sinking a once promising career? One thing's certain, this saga will be remembered long after the final credits roll. And that, in the land of sensational headlines, might be the most shocking twist of all.